Greetings and welcome to the Mount Rushmore podcast. My name is Jeff, and we are continuing our kind of haunting Halloween episodes with the Mount Rushmore podcast. My name is Jeff, and I'm joined as always by my good friends Richard.
Hello.
And Michael.
Howdy.
And there's another ghostly apparition floating through the Mount Rushmore studios right now. Who are you, spirit? Who are you?
I'm PJ Baio. How's it going?
Oh, what a friendly ghost. He's like Casper, but he's PJ. It's PJ Baio, who is a comic and actor and raconteur and all the other things. He's a very funny dude. You can see him performing all the time at clubs that are really online clubs in LA right now. Flappers is one of them. PJ is our guest this Halloween-flavored episode of the Mount Rushmore podcast to discuss what is kind of an esoteric topic, the Mount Rushmore of bedsheet ghosts. PJ, you are an aficionado of horror and slasher and things supernatural. At what point in your kind of fondness for this cultural phenomena did you wonder, why the fuck are dead people portrayed as people wearing bed sheets in movies and TV? Or did you ever? When did it occur to you?
Yes, it's ridiculous. Well, I probably watching Scooby-Doo and Casper was the first time I saw a bedsheet ghost, because the ghosts in Casper are patterned after bedsheet ghosts.
Yeah.
And but to get to the heart of the bedsheet ghost, the true origin, you have to go back to death.
Mm-hmm.
Death back in the day when they used to wrap bodies in death shrouds, bed sheets, pretty much.
Ah, okay.
And so I guess it was just assumed when someone comes back from the afterlife that they just like throw that shroud over their head and walk around. Like that.
Or float around.
Float around, yeah.
And maybe cut convenient eye holes in it too.
Imagine back in the day when they just if they had just dressed him up as a clown before they put him in the earth, and then they came back just still dressed up like a clown. That's what it's got to be.
It'd be clown ghosts.
Well, I think it's a funny phenomenon worth discussing in our idiosyncratic way here on the Mount Rushmore podcast. So we may hear a little bit more about the origins of this pop culture phenomena, but we're going to discuss our choices of things that most represent or best represent or oddly represent the bedsheet ghosts in pop culture and whatever. So PJ, what's your first choice?
Oh, my first choice would probably be Michael Myers in Halloween.
Oh, okay. Wow, cool. Okay, well, tell me why you chose that one.
Well, it's one of my favorite movies, and it's just a pretty ridiculous scene because it's scary but yet hilarious because Michael Myers is wearing a bedsheet.
Yeah, and so it's kind of a monster dressed as a monster, which is kind of funny.
Exactly.
To begin with, yeah. For those who may seek out PJ's social media handles, you might see Michael Myers, the image thereof, popping around on those photo pages, and that's because one of the things PJ does is a show called Cosplay Comedy, and he performs as Michael Myers. How did you develop that routine, and could you describe what you do to be a character that doesn't have a voice but still delivers stand-up comedy?
Well, it started out as I was also doing another cosplay character. I was doing Jason the Hack comic.
Very funny.
Who is Jason Voorhees, and the act Jason doesn't have a voice, so I wanted to give him a voice, and so the voice I chose to give him was Andrew Dice Clay, doing hacky jokes and poetry, and it worked. And I wanted to expand my field of cosplay comedy characters, and I took on the challenge of Michael Myers, and it was like, well, I would really be doing the character a disservice if I gave him a voice. So I do it all with flashcards.
Yeah.
So he just holds up big flashcards and tells his jokes that way. And
yeah. What was the story? I'm late. I had to get a babysitter.
It sounds fantastic. I wish you could do a little bit of it for us, but not the best medium for it.
Well, let me ask you this. A previous episode, we had our buddy Dawn from the Classic Horror Shop, and I think you guys are acquainted, but Dawn sells a Michael Myers. Dawn sells such a broad variety of Michael Myers masks. It was kind of surprising. There was the Captain James T. Kirk mask that she sells that is then customized by people to be a Michael Myers mask, and then there's just flat out different varieties. I can imagine in your abode there are a few different bits of horror paraphernalia. Do you have a Michael Myers mask sitting around?
I have 3. Would you like me
Okay.
to grab them?
Day, evening, casual, poolside.
Well, I've got the Halloween 2 mask, and I've got the Halloween 1 mask, and then I've got another one called the Elrod mask, which is from Halloween 2. And Trick or Treat Studios has a license to make these masks, and what they do is they take certain angles from certain scenes of the movies and mold a mask from that.
Okay.
Because I guess Michael Myers has different looks. I guess it's the same mask, it's just a different angle.
Mm.
But yeah, I mean it's weird. But the mask they used in Halloween 2 was the same mask that was used in Halloween 1. It just looked different and looked wider because Dick Warlock, the actor who played Michael Myers in the second movie, just had a wide head.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just how snugly the mask fit on his head.
Yeah. Who was the first? Wasn't Dick Chudnow wasn't the first guy? Who was the first Michael Myers?
Putting
you to the test.
Shoot.
Okay, well, we
I
do know
it's
that
Nick Castle. It's Nick Castle.
Nick Castle. We do know that he wore a bedsheet at one point.
Yes.
And that's the most important thing.
What I liked about it too is that he also, like, I don't know, did he have a sense of humor? He put the glasses on over the bed sheet too.
Yeah.
I mean, it seems so strange and like seemingly out of character now for like this guy who's like this great kind of silent killer to just be standing there also. And then he's got glasses that look like, gosh, I don't even know what. Who's like a Drew Carey or like
Buddy Holly, the month. Yeah.
They were kind of like aviator glasses.
Oh, they are.
Yeah.
Well, that's a very funny first choice. So thank you, PJ. And Richard and/or Michael, who's going to start us off?
I'll start us off. And our first one's a little bit less scary than that. It is Charlie Brown.
Oh, nice.
It's the Great Pumpkin, Charlie Brown, when he attempts to make a bedsheet ghost and winds up fucking the whole thing up because he's a hopeless fuck up because he's Charlie Brown. And if you'll remember, it has about 20 eye holes in it, and he winds up getting nothing but rocks. And this was memorable for me personally because in college, believe it was either in college or right after college. My girlfriend at the time, now my wife, and I went to Santa Monica for the big Halloween Bacchanal festival thing that they do down there. And my bright idea was, I'll get a bed sheet and I'll cut it up like Charlie Brown, and I'll get a bunch of holes in it, and I'll get a bag with rocks, and there's my Halloween costume. There were 2 problems with this. One, the rocks are heavy. And if your goal is to go to a party and get drunk walking around the street all day, carrying around a bag of rocks is a bad idea. The second bigger issue was that I didn't bother to trim the bed sheet, so it was much longer than it was wide. So I'm in a crowd of about 100,000 people trying to walk with this like bed sheet trailing behind me like it's a bridal gown or something. And I'm just constantly getting stepped on and practically knocked to the ground. And I was the fuck up in this case. I can understand where Charlie Brown came from with this. And I just growing up as a kid, I loved Charlie Brown. He was so relatable. And I think this was the perfect example of Charlie Brown attempting to do something simple, kind of like with his handwriting. How Charlie Brown always had trouble writing with a pen whenever he had a pen pal. Same sort of thing. Just basically incapable of doing the most basic stuff.
It's nice. It's a nice contrast too to like the 7 other kids who are dressed exactly the same. Like Lucy's the only one that's wearing like a witch outfit because she's a horrible person, and the rest of the other kids are all dressed up in like in these bedsheet costumes, including Pigpen, who has the usual trail of dust behind him. But they all look fine, except of course Charlie, who just can't get it together.
Do you think is Charlie Brown? So in the comic strip, he is foiled by the role of the punter or place kicker in football. He screws that up every time. But other than that, in the animated features, it seems like Charlie Brown is just a nightmare around the holidays. Like he fucks up a Christmas tree. If he was celebrating Kwanzaa, he'd probably mess up the corn somehow. It just seems like he's the screw up around the holidays.
So he's like a drunk uncle, kind of.
Yeah, he's like, yeah.
Is that what you're suggesting?
I think that's exactly it. That's exactly it.
Well, he does, as a baseball pitcher, continually be unclothed every time a ball gets hit to him, which is a little unsettling because he's like 8.
That does seem something that the evidentiary procedures in the courtroom would kind of reveal a psychological profile of a nudist.
Again, drunk uncle getting naked at inappropriate times. I think we're starting
true.
to see a pattern here, Jeff.
That's true. Okay, well, PJ, you did a little bit of kind of background reading on the Bedsheet Ghost beyond its inception. What else did you have to share about the history of that?
Also, way back in the day, people used bedsheet ghosts to mug people.
Oh, I love
really?
that.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, so instead of wearing a knit cap face thing,
Yeah.
or whatever it is,
Some women's stockings.
or a
yeah.
stocking, they would just cut a couple holes in the bed sheet, throw that over their heads, go out and rob somebody, and then run. And once they were far enough away, take off the bed sheet,
Yeah.
and then just blend in with the crowd. So
Wow.
it was like a master disguise because this guy mugged me. It was a ghost.
Yeah, it was a ghost.
They're
That did
looking for
get-
ghosts. Now they can't find him because he took off his disguise.
Yeah, once we capture him, we're going to give him the death penalty. Here's what's wrong with that.
That's double jeopardy, sir.
Wow, that feels like something that would have been in the gangs of New York or some historical. If you tell me this could have been happening in Cleveland today, I would probably believe that too, I guess. Okay, so PJ, what's your second choice of bedsheet ghostness?
Second choice of bedsheet ghostness. Well, I don't know if this will count because I never saw the movie, but there's this movie with Casey Affleck called A Ghost or The Haunting,
Oh yeah,
in which he wears a bedsheet.
yeah, and I think it's done in like a square aspect, almost like an Instagram
Yeah, exactly.
video or something like that. I heard that was a very effective, not just the frame size presentation was very novel and square, almost like the first movies were done. So the fact that they kind of did a retro version of the Ghost too sounds very novel. So that's cool. What was it called again? The Haunting?
It was A Haunting, I believe, not The A Haunting.
A ghost story.
Or A Ghost Story.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And it's one of those things where it seems like the ghost, it's almost like a Wim Wenders thing where the spirits are there and they're longing to connect with the living versus there to kind of scare the shit out of them. Like it's this kind of like
Yeah, he's
unfinished.
there to console his wife, basically.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And of course, I think the twist is that it turns out that he's not actually dead. She just doesn't want anything to do with him. Because he's Casey Affleck. So fuck that guy. There's the twist. Sorry, spoiler alert.
Well, that's very
I'm
novel.
glad I brought this up because I'm for sure I'm never going to want to see this ever.
So PJ, you are known for, and I think people who seek out your socials will see your movie reviews, and each movie you post, about half of them I've seen before, and I ask myself why I ever watched them, and then half of them I ask myself, why the fuck do you watch them? Because they are, maybe they're so bad they're good. Is that often the case, or so bad they're bad?
Yeah, often the case. I mean, I always try to find the good in everything, especially in bad movies. But I'm a movie nut. I'm a cinephile. And I do like a lot of dumb and silly
Yeah.
films.
Yeah. So you're like a gourmand. That's the person who likes a lot of different kind of food versus the gourmet who
Yeah.
who needs the finest. Okay. What did you watch recently that we can read about?
Well, I recently, well, today, as a matter of fact, Stuart Gordon's Dolls.
Oh,
I've
wow.
never seen that movie from 1986.
Okay. All right.
Yeah,
We'll check that out.
it's a horror comedy, and it's really silly and dumb, but uh, but they call themselves out on the silly and dumb, which makes it even funnier.
Okay.
Yeah.
We did have a episode of the Mount Rushmore horror comedy in the past and discussing how challenging, how rare that genre is to find anymore, and I imagine it's very rare to execute in a way that's neither mostly horror or mostly comedy or a compromise of them both. But um, that's another thing we discussed too is how similar those genres really are because they both kind of create and release tension
Right.
uh, from a directorial standpoint. Okay, Richard and Michael, what do you got?
Our second choice is the Playmobil Ghost from product number 3317. It's a glow-in-the-dark ghost that has this little ball and chain attached to his leg or his arm or wherever you want to attach it. And what I like about it the most, what I like about this ghost the most, is that there's a character that's like underneath this bed sheet. It's not just like a molded plastic ghost, like something out of like Lego or whatever. It feels like they really went out of their way to kind of have that aspect of it being like a person under a bed sheet, whether it's like a person that's pretending to be a ghost. I can't quite tell from the pictures, but I remember having this thing as a kid. It was, very I had a version of it. I don't know if I had this really cool glow in the dark one, but it came with like their kind of night set, and they'd had to do like a lot of like, I assume this was a ghost that haunted some sort of castle or what have you. But I just love that, like all just the different aspects of this thing that is, one, glow in the dark, two, has a person that's actually kind of wearing this bed sheet, and three, the kind of the ball and chain kind of reminding these kids that about death and it's you're being held down to this mortal coil and you can never kind of go beyond it. And it's just a great looking toy ghost. And I think that it's so funny having my son is now 3, and he is, as I've talked numerous times on this podcast, he's obsessed with Halloween. And so there's all these little aspects of like death that are involved in Halloween. And God, everything in our house right now is, black cats and spooky owls and ghosts and skeletons. And he's been pretending to be a witch and making these potions, and he puts like just different things in there. And so we have just this kind of constant like aura of death around you, and you don't realize how much death is involved in like your kids' toys, and especially around Halloween. And you got to try to explain what a zombie is, kind of. And to a 3-year-old, it's like, well, he died, and then he came back, and he wants to eat brains. And then he pretends to feed you a potion. He's like, okay, now I'm a zombie. And he's going like, wow. And you're like, how do I explain what a ghost is? As someone that died and their spirit came back, but we're not religious, so I can't explain heaven and hell to him. And like all these, like, I don't know how to talk about a ghost, but he knows exactly what it is. And, kids have been, I'm sure, playing with ghost toys for forever, but I just love this one.
Wow. I'm looking up, I kind of thought I had the general idea of, I was imagining those Fisher-Price little people when you described that, but now I'm looking, there's so many variants too. There's the scary ghost
pirates.
Yeah, holding a candelabra. This is very gothic. Yeah. What do you think triggers his fascination? He knows that you're kind of interested in it, but he seems to play in that world a lot longer than you do.
That's true. I think my wife Emily, his mom, she's always been about Halloween is one of her favorite holidays, and she personally loves to decorate. So I think that it's just we've really, I mean, kind of pushed it, and it's just we don't have any sort of hesitation to have some spooky stuff around, and he's always he's always veered toward it. This kid loves being scared, but then hates it at the same time. I think I've told this story. I've told this story before, but like he really doesn't like to watch a scene in Star Wars where they're trapped in the trash compactor. It like unsettles him. It makes him nervous. He wants to change. He's like, I don't want to watch the trash compactor part, he says, but he wants to pull all of the pillows off of the sofa and put them on the floor and crawl underneath it and say, help, I'm trapped in the trash compactor. So he wants to he has all these fears that he just processes immediately, which is so fascinating to me.
Wow.
So I don't know, maybe check back in a few years and see where we're at and how far deep into therapy we are.
Yeah. Well, get him a guitar or a keyboard and he'll start writing some music that'll make you all millionaires. So I think that we are at our halftime.
Yeah.
And this is just a coincidence, but I'm sitting next to the bed and I have this white sheet. So I'm going to do the halftime with this white sheet over my head.
Wrong white sheet, Michael.
I don't approve
of the wrong white sheet on.
I don't like the point on top.
Yeah.
Wait, guys, I'm a little bit short for rent, so I've got to go out real quick and make some money. I'll be right back. I'm going to take this off. Want to invite our listeners to take advantage of a little promotion we have right now with our friend Dawn Poe-Geerlings, the proprietor of the ClassicHorrorShop.com, and to support a small business as the holiday season gears up. And for her, Halloween is the big holiday season. You can get 20% off. No, it's 15% off. You can get a discount. No, it's 20 because the code is MR2020. Hell, I don't know. You'll get a discount if you do MR2020 on checkout from theclassichorrorshop.com. So take advantage of that up until October 31st. Of course, that's probably naturally when you would buy stuff before then. And so buy early and buy often because the Postal Service is trying their best, but they are understaffed and people are kind of monkeying around with their resources. So you can also hook us up by going back and downloading, rating, and reviewing past episodes of the Mount Rushmore podcast. We sure would appreciate if you would share with a friend, and then do us a solid and join us in the dialogue out there on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. You can suggest another weird topic like the Mount Rushmore bedsheet ghosts, and then you can even let us know what we missed on this topic or other previous topics. So that would be super awesome if you did that. Okay, PJ,
Yes.
what other crazy stuff is in the history of bedsheet ghosts? Is there anything else?
Not well. If you want to go back to the whole origin of Halloween.
Oh yeah.
Which was originally a Celtic festival. Am I saying that right?
Sure.
And that whole thing was people dressing up to ward off evil spirits, and of course, bedsheet ghost was the most easiest accessible, in the handy costume to make, in which so apparently evil spirits were afraid of bedsheet ghosts.
Good to know. Good to know. Cool. Okay, so then what is your third example of a bedsheet ghost in culture?
That would be Booberry.
Oh, sweet.
Frankenberry, Count Chocula, and Booberry.
Oh, that's super cool.
So now you got a bedsheet ghost selling cereal. And also who wears a straw hat, which I thought was kind of weird.
Yeah.
It's jaunty. It's jaunty, yeah.
It's kind of like Bingberry, like, hey, buddy boy. But is he Paul Frees or somebody doing a Peter Lorre impersonation or something like that? I forget what character.
Yeah, I think it's Peter Lorre.
Yeah.
You're right.
Because Frankenberry was Boris Karloff for sure.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
and kind of a Lugosi was Count Chocula, I guess. So are you I see these boxes of cereal, the General Mills monster cereals on the shelves at Target this time of year. And my hand always reaches out to grab it, but it's always this huge family size, and I know I'm not going to eat this. This is going to go in the trash. Are you a monster cereals aficionado?
Not really, but I am a Funko cereal
Oh, sweet.
collector. Yeah,
Uh-huh.
I've got a box of Elvira cereal,
Nice.
which is black. I don't know what it tastes like because I'm not going to eat it. But it comes with a little mini Elvira Funko Pop.
Sweet.
It should be called Boob Berry for Elvira cereal.
Boob berry.
Very,
That's exciting. You'll be a collector's item for you because the thrill of eating that cereal probably doesn't match the future value.
no.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that's super cool. Blueberry, gotta say that's probably one of the first bedsheet ghosts I saw as a kid. And now that I think about it, does he have holes cut for eyes per se, or?
I believe his eyes are embedded in his sheet.
But he definitely looks like a sheet floating around versus ectoplasm or something like that. So,
Yeah, he's definitely a sheet ghost.
yeah. That's so funny. What was the fourth one? Was it Fruit Brute? Who was the monster that got canceled? There was like a fourth guy. I forget. Maybe it was the Fruit. I thought he was a wolf or something like that.
Oh yeah. What was his name? No idea. I'm really not helping here, you guys.
Okay. All right. Well, you guys can help by giving us your third choice.
Okay, I can do this at least,
Okay.
Jeff,
Okay.
if nothing else. Our third choice is the Maitlands, attempting to be scary in their house in the movie Beetlejuice.
Oh, wow. Cool.
Alec Baldwin and Gina Davis when they're
Uh-huh.
dressed up, kind of practicing at being ghosts,
Mm-hmm.
and absolutely scaring nobody.
Uh-huh.
And what I love about this, I went and rewatched the scene before before we got on to record this. I just love the idea that they didn't have clean sheets, like white sheets. All they had were like these pastel and plaid looking sheets.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what they had to go with. I just love that little touch, the fact that they can't even be like a proper ghost in like a white, what you would think of as your ghost in a white kind of sheet. No, they're in plaid and pastels.
Yeah. Of all the characters in that film who've entered the afterlife but don't know how to do it yet, they're kind of the funniest because now they have a mission to begin before they're even really ready to scare off the new owners.
Yeah,
absolutely. I do appreciate that they go from such extremes to the juvenile bedsheet ghost thing, and then the very next time after they meet with whoever it is, their caseworker, and they come back and like they're sticking their hands through their heads and their eyeballs are crunched up on their fingertips and their mouths are wide open. Like there's no middle ground for these two. They're either the most horrific, Tim Burton sketch drawing of whatever he thinks frightening is, or there's just like, oh yeah, they're wearing striped flannel sheets.
Very funny. Okay, so before we get to the last round, did anybody choose anything from Gilligan's Island by any chance?
We did not, no.
Okay.
Surprisingly, based on our track record, no, we did not.
Okay. My favorite bedsheet ghost was portrayed by Richard Keel, who we mostly know as on an episode of, it was episode 27 of the second season of CBS's Gilligan's Island, Ghost a Go-Go. And there's a Russian commander who has landed on the island, and Richard Keel is his operative. And Richard Keel, I think, is dubbed in by some other actor because it's not his kind of typical voice that he has, this grunting out things he does as Jaws. So I remember as a kid, I think the castaways dress up like ghosts to try to scare him away, and it was a funny thing that almost kind of presaged the movie Scream, where you see a couple. You think it's one ghost, and you realize it's a couple people kind of are apparitions dressed up like this apparition. So it was right in that pocket of scary, funny, which I just loved as a kid, like the Ghost and Mr. Chicken, these other things that kind of fell into that pocket, or even something like Scooby Doo, which is even
the ice cream ghosts.
Yeah. Oh yeah. The visuals in Scooby Doo, even when you had just kind of like a haunted, creepy background, it was purple and it was kind of had almost like fluorescent colors to it. So it was always very vibrant, even if it was trying to scare you. So that's my vote. Okay, so is it PJ's last one?
I believe so. Yeah.
PJ, what's your final one?
Oh, my final one would be Zero and Oogie Boogie from
great.
Nightmare Before Christmas.
Oh, adorable.
Because you got Zero, who is a bedsheet ghost dog, and then you have Oogie Boogie, who is a burlap sack ghost. Burlap sack ghost.
Yeah. Wow.
So, heightening it, taking it to the next level, burlap sacks.
Yeah. Yeah. Do we have a sense of, like, we know what's Zero is a skeletal kind of thing floating around in this thing, but we think Oogie is probably just a bag of worms or something like that, right? Is it? Doesn't he come undone?
Pretty much. Yeah. But Zero is definitely wearing a sheet.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. Yeah. One thing that's fun about that Nightmare Before Christmas is it seems to instill some of what we know, because there's apparently what are vampires in the traditional sense, and then Zero feels like a kind of a ghost in the traditional sense, but then there's all these other, like the guy with the tearaway face, or the mayor who's spins around. There's
Right.
some things that we don't know in there for sure. All right, cool. Okay, Winfield and Manfredi, it's your final choice.
Our last choice is when E.T., the extraterrestrial, is dressed up as a bedsheet ghost in order to hide himself, to try to get him away from the house during Halloween. And the most wonderful image is of just this thing that's wearing like huge clown shoes to cover its gigantic monster feet. Mm-hmm. And you look at like his face, and the eye holes are cut in just such weird places. Like it's totally falling off of his face, and it just looks so ridiculous. And they give that really wonderful like first person view point of like him looking out the eye holes at like the world around him, and all these other people dressed up as pirates, and the kids that he's with are dressed up as like a hobo and a skeleton. I think that's what Elliot's dressed up as. And of course, the very classic, he sees some kid dressed up as Yoda in like one of those way too good Yoda costumes for kids in 1981 or 82. You're just like, no one has a good Yoda costume like that. It was all those cheap plastic masks, and like the smock says Yoda on it. So, and then he just looks at this thing and says home. But I love that it was just an ingenious way to hide somebody quickly. And they got, the idea was that that was supposedly, to trick the mother. That was Gertie, the Drew Barrymore character, underneath it. And the mom is so frazzled and so out of it, and she's just like, she doesn't even notice that this could not possibly be Gertie when it doesn't sound like her, not the same size or shape or whatever. But she's just so happy that just to see her kids all dressed up in some way.
That's a fun one, and nobody does Childlike Wonder better than Spielberg, especially in that era too. Doesn't he spot another ghost at some point? I think he through his little eye holes is able to see like another one like him.
Yeah.
The movie, that scene does bring up a good point about the bedsheet ghost, which is you have limited peripheral vision.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Which is another thing I found when I attempted to do it. Again, being at a party with 100,000 other drunken a-holes. A lot of running into people. A lot of running into people.
Do we think there's a slutty bedsheet ghost out there at the Spirit Halloween store or something?
Oh yeah, the boobs are stuffed or they're cut out or something. Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Or slit up the side so you show a little bit of leg. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I always wonder if
I'm looking at sexy bedsheet ghosts, ruining my internet search history. I don't see anything other than people like putting bras and underwear over the ghost costume.
Oh, okay. That seems kind of. I always wonder if you were like a sex worker or a stripper or somebody whose job it is to be sexy all year round. Like Halloween, are you just like, I'm going to be a certified public accountant, or like the sexy one? No, frumpy. I'm going to be frumpy. The ghosts. What also around here, if you go around, you'll see the ghosts of businesses that used to be thriving and are now Halloween stores, especially like downtown Burbank. It's all one Halloween store now.
All spirit of Halloween.
All of them. Well, that looks like our whole show right there. It looks like we've wrapped it up. And boy, howdy, PJ. I want to say, normally on this show, the visitor is chosen because they're an expert on something or have a funny point of view on something. And you did not break that tradition. It was fun to see the disparate choices that you made in your selections of this weird topic, Mount Rushmore Bedsheet ghosts. So it's now my ghastly honor to choose our ghostly winners, and I'm going to choose 3 PJ, 1 Richard, and Michael. I'm going to go with Michael Myers in Halloween, and Boo Berry, and because it's the ghost you can eat, and then Zero and Oogie Boogie because it's a double whammy, which you delivered there. And then, so thank you for those great choices. That makes you the winner. But then the Playmobil ghost was just a fun left field kind of choice. So Michael and Richard get that point. PJ, are you doing any show? This will post on Thursday. Do you have any shows coming up or anything like that?
Actually, yeah, I do. The weekend of the 17th, I am in the Chicago Nerd Festival.
Oh, wow. Cool.
I'll be performing that Friday night and that Saturday night. I will not be in Chicago. I will be in beautiful Burbank, California.
You are a former Chicago resident, so people within earshot might think they can go hit up their buddy TJ or PJ. So,
and that's a cosplay comedy show, in which I believe you're on that too, Jeff.
I think I am. I think I are you in 2 different cosplays in that?
Yeah, in one show I am Michael Myers, and in the second one I am Jason the Hat Comic.
That's awesome.
Jeff, will your friend Retro Batman be making an appearance with this?
Yes.
Your buddy.
Yeah, my friend Retro Batman and the insult comic Boba T. Fett will also be performing. So,
and on that same weekend, on Saturday, which I think is the 17th, I will be streaming live from Flappers. I'll be doing 15 minutes.
Oh, that's awesome.
From the actual Flapper stage.
Yeah, that's what Kyle said. That I think he did that last night or something. So
yep.
It is a social distance because there's nobody in the stage, right?
There's a few people.
Yeah.
Not many, but yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's great. So glad to hear that your comedy's out there happening and that actual comedy clubs are being able to adapt and present live comedy. So that's pretty awesome. And where can people find you out on social media?
Oh, you can find me on, easiest way to find me is on Instagram and Twitter at PJ Baio. That is PJ Baio.
Cool. Awesome. Well, sir, I hope you have a happy Halloween, and I appreciate you coming and guesting on our show. This has been the Mount Rushmore of Bedsheet Ghosts. As always, I'm Jeff.
I'm Richard.
And Michael.